Hi everyone, welcome back to the Career Diaries podcast, the podcast where we bring career stories to life and provide you with the insights, advice, and inspiration you need to navigate your career journey. My name is Maureen. I will be your host as we dive into conversations with hiring managers and industry professionals who want to work with students just like you. Today's episode, we have a rising star tech and his name is Martin Nyaga. He's a lead software developer at DRS Software and was recently featured in the Yorkshire Top 30 Under 30. Martin shares his journey from being a student who enjoyed programming to now leading massive software tech projects. And he also shares practical advice on how to apply for technical roles, how to navigate the hiring process, and just how to break into a niche, fast-growing software environment. So if this is something of interest, sit back and I hope you enjoy today's episode. Hi Martin, nice to see you again.
Yeah, it's my pleasure to be here.
Can you introduce yourself and your role at DRS Software?
Yeah, my name is Martin Nyaga. I'm the lead software engineer at DRS Software.
What kind of work does DRS focus on and what kind of projects does your company typically involve in?
Yeah. So we are a specialist software consulting company, and in particular, we focus on sort of two areas. The first is software modernization. So we are looking at taking legacy systems and bringing them up to par with modern standards. That's sort of the first area. And the second is building advanced web applications. All the work that we do is built on top of a technology called WebAssembly, which is this relatively new web platform technology that allows you to write advanced applications that run inside a web browser, so like Google Chrome or Microsoft Edge, etc.
Yeah. Have you always done work related to software development? What has your journey towards your career look like?
Yeah, I suppose my journey has been somewhat atypical. I studied at University of Leeds. I did my degree in chemical engineering, actually, and I did an MEng, so all the way to master's level. And it's sort of strange that I found myself in a career in software engineering, but also not, because I loved programming from when I was young, since high school, really. And in fact, after high school, I started first by doing a bunch of kind of freelance programming work. And in that period, sort of between high school and uni, I ended up taking on a few, non-trivial projects. So by the time I was coming into university to study chemical engineering, I had been programming for a while. I loved doing it, so I continued doing it alongside my studies. And around the same time, actually, and arising from the same interest, I used to attend a lot of local events around technology, various types of events, ranging from, events about specific technologies that I was interested in to more like general networking, tech events. And through this is how I actually met my current employer. And at the time, we sort of had a conversation and he had some work that was kind of interesting. And we started working together. It turns out actually that the work was it had a huge overlap between my chemical engineering studies and my programming skills. So we're building software for chemical engineers.
Okay.
So during my studies, I started working together with this company, and it sort of built from there. Once I graduated, I took a full-time position, and that's where I still work today, DRS Software. Yeah.
Cool. What would you say is the best parts, the fun parts of working in that environment?
Right. I could answer this question in two different ways.
Yeah.
I could answer it from the point of view of the technology and the actual work, which is that it's pretty cool to be working on fairly complex problems using pretty frontier technology. So this is the kind of tech that doesn't have all that many experts around the world, and that makes it very interesting to be working right at the cutting edge. And there's always new and interesting things to explore and problems to solve, and that part of the job is quite interesting. But I could also answer this question from the point of view of working for what is a relatively small company, and that also has its own interesting dynamics. You end up wearing a lot of hats and you take on a lot of responsibility, and that's its own unique challenge that I find quite fun.
Yeah. So when you say that you guys make web applications, how was the transition from just contributing to the creations of these applications to now leading massive projects in your career? Like any tips or advice for people who want to get into creating software tech?
Yeah, so I can speak quite a bit to this actually from my own experience. And I think most people looking for a career in software engineering will find themselves following a similar type of path. At the kind of foundational level, you have to be very good at writing code. Right? This is where it starts. You have to program a lot. You have to understand how to write good code that is maintainable, readable for the rest of your team, is efficient, fulfills the task at hand, and so on and so forth. And this actually is what, at a uni level, particularly undergraduate, you have to focus a lot on, basically being able to write good code. And that's where it starts. Then, as you progress in your career, you find yourself needing to sort of progress from understanding the specific problem or task that you have been given to developing a broader understanding of the system that you're working on. So this means not just the parts that you touch or that you work on, but also what your coworkers are working on and what the broader context of the system is, what other systems it integrates with, and so on and so forth. So developing a more holistic understanding of everything that's happening, which then allows you to make better decisions that exceed the localized scope of the specific thing that you're working on. Okay, and this comes partly from experience. Reading and writing a lot of code, talking to your coworkers, talking to everybody involved in the projects that you're working on, and so on and so forth. And then at some point, you establish yourself as kind of an expert in the specific system that you're working on, the project, the application. And then, so that's kind of the second level, is developing this broader understanding and expertise, not in specifically programming or specific problems, but a broader application scope. And then from there, it's kind of, again, graduating to understanding more of the business context. And businesses are usually much more complex than a specific application. And understanding the business needs and the business direction and goals, and being able to contribute more than just on the specific application you're working on and have now become pretty well versed in, to being able to contribute in other areas of the business as well, still technically tech related. Also, it could be other applications, it could be integrations between different teams, and so on. And by the time you're getting to this point, you are pretty well positioned to now start leading projects on your own. So this is sort of the path that I followed. So I started with a specific analytics application I was describing earlier. And then by the time we were working on new projects, I had already developed quite a good understanding of this system and the team and the ways it integrates with other pieces of software and so on. So it felt quite natural for me to be in a position where I am leading the team that is working on a new thing. And since then, my role has grown much more. I'm leading several projects at the same time. But the progress is always from being good at the specific technical skill to having a broad understanding of your project to the surrounding business context and how the work that you and your team are doing impacts the wider business. And from there, you could go many directions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so since you guys are part of the Exclusive to Lead scheme,
Yes,
and you
yes.
hire part-time jobs,
Yeah.
placements, what skills do you guys look out for?
Yeah, so I've partly answered this
Yeah.
in the sense that, at least for technical hires, we're always looking for someone who can demonstrate an ability to solve problems, technical problems, well, clearly, efficiently, and so on and so forth. So this is, on the technical skills side, this is the bar that you need to meet. However, I think, especially at a university of the level of Uni of Leeds, a lot of students meet this bar, right? And many students are pretty good at programming. And so, from a student's perspective, you've got to find a way to stand out somehow from the rest of your peers. And that's where, you know, this other set of softer skills comes in. And I think if I were to highlight one specifically that we are always on the lookout for and that always catches my eye during interviews, is that I'm looking for people who can express themselves very clearly, are not only deeply understand the things, the projects, the past experience that they're talking about, that they understand them well, but are passionate about them and can talk about them with a lot of clarity. Okay, so being able to talk very clearly and in a lot of depth about things you have done in the past. This could be uni projects, they could be side projects, but being able to express them clearly with a lot of passion and with a lot of understanding and clarity. This takes practice, and this is a thing that can help a lot in terms of standing out from a pool of applicants for a specific position. And this is probably the number one piece of advice I would give anyone applying for an entry-level technical role. So apart from the technical skills, learn how to express yourself clearly, confidently, with passion, and understand deeply the things that you're talking about.
Would you say the candidate would need to have like relevant experience to qualify for the role, or as long as they're able to express themselves and are passionate about the role, there is like room to learn on the job? Yeah,
this is another good question. I think particularly at a graduate level, it's sort of expected that not many people will have a lot of professional experience at that point. Now, I always advise students earlier in their uni journey that work placements are an excellent idea, and you should take one if you can, because it does help you gain some more practical experience. But even that aside, usually most graduates will not have a lot of professional experience to show for it. And so as a student, you need to lean heavily on your academic experience for one. So going back to what I said earlier, like being able to pick specific projects that you did, that you were deeply involved in, understand very well, and that you liked and enjoyed, and talk about them. This can already make you seem, you know, like a candidate who's well versed in software engineering. But also in tech specifically, I advise you to do as many side projects as you can. Maybe not even in terms of quantity, but in terms of quality. So it could be one big side project, or it could be many smaller things. And this is important because I think in your uni content, you will not be programming as much. There's a lot of theoretical content, a lot of it useful and interesting and meaningful. But in terms of raw lines of code that you have written, how much you have programmed, you have to try to, you know, practice this a lot outside of your standard uni content. And this also not only builds your expertise and your understanding of different problems, different domains, and so on, but it gives you the stuff to talk about, the stuff to kind of show that you understand how software development is done. So yes, you don't really need a lot of prior experience. In most cases, it's students will not be expected to have all that much prior experience, but there are things that you can do to make yourself stand out from the rest of the student applicants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with like AI becoming increasingly like integrated during hiring and even in tech in general, how have you seen it like affect hiring process for you and like the quality of applications?
Yeah, I'm laughing because we spoke about this
Yeah.
earlier, and I have a strong opinion on this. AI is an excellent tool to improve the quality of your applications. Unfortunately, it's being used not very well. Based on my own experience interviewing candidates, students, the biggest mistake that is being made is that everybody takes their job description and their CV, plugs it into GPT, and has GPT, output a cover letter and a customized CV.
Yeah.
The problem with this is that what you end up with is, dozens of applications that look essentially identical. Why? Because they've all done the same thing.
Yeah.
You have the same student experience roughly, and the job description is the same. So if you all do this, then I have 50 applications that look basically identical.
Yeah.
And you cannot stand out by doing this, one. Two, it's very robotic and doesn't showcase the things I was talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Your own passion, your own individual experience, and the things that interest you, and the things that you want to work on, the things that you're good at. This process, if you just do it naively, can really dilute your own personality in your application.
Yeah.
And so you have to be much, much more intentional than this when you are using AI to help you craft an application. I'm not saying don't use it, absolutely do. But you have to be a lot more intentional. These AI tools benefit a lot from very explicit and detailed prompting. So for example, if you're asking GPT to help you write a cover letter, you don't give it your CV and the job description and tell it, write me a cover letter. You give it the CV, job description, and then you start writing a prompt, which would be something like, I am especially passionate about this and this and this. I recently worked on this thing that I enjoyed a lot, and it works like this and like that and like that. I also want you to highlight that apart from my academic or technical expertise, I have these and these and these skills that I learned while doing this and this and this, which I found extremely fascinating.
Yeah.
The more additional context that you can give it, which is not going to be present in your CV because a CV is a very standardized document, the more context that you can give it, the more individualized and detailed description of the things that you want it to highlight that you can give to the AI tool, the better the output. Once you get an output from AI, you also have to understand that AI tools have a very specific language. Okay, so there's ways that AI will write a letter that humans will not write a letter in the same way. So you still have to do some post-processing, i.e., try to make it much more natural, much more personal in the selection of language.
Yeah.
So I wish I came with a concrete example. I don't have one, but I know we'll share some ways that people can reach out to me, and I'm happy to answer questions about this afterwards. But yeah, you basically have to try and not sound like yet another AI-generated application.
Yeah.
Because we receive hundreds of these, and it really drowns you out in the crowd. And whatever you can do to achieve that, I've tried to give some helpful tips. Please do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, apart from people using AI poorly, which obviously you have a very strong opinion on that, what are other, like, general mistakes that you see, like, in applications?
I think in applications, this is perhaps the most important one. But more broadly, I think it ties a lot into things I've spoken about earlier. So we want to see your passion, we want to see your interest, and we want to see that you know what you're talking about. And every opportunity you have to express that, whether it's in the way that you write your CV or in the way that you are speaking at an interview, then the more you're likely to stand out. I know that the uni has got a lot of support in the CV writing and application part of the process. I think students underutilize it. Having been a student at Leeds myself, I know that students underutilize it, and you should absolutely take advantage of that. And then be quite clear in yourself about the things that you like, the things that you're passionate about, and be able to practice expressing yourself very clearly and with a lot of confidence and passion. And that really comes across when you're interviewing, and this is really important.
So you mentioned that you studied here, and you were an international student as well. What was your experience like navigating the UK job market?
So I suppose, like I said earlier, my experience was slightly atypical because I met my current employer while I was still in uni, started working with them while I was in, I think it was second year or something like this. And that relationship has built up until now. But before I even go to more general advice, there's still something to be learned here, which is that I was quite intentional about networking, going to industry events that I found interesting, meeting people, chatting with them about the things that I find interesting and the things that they're working on. And basically putting yourself in a position where when an opportunity arises, you're kind of there to catch it. You know? So being in spaces where people are discussing ambitious and complex projects, new and interesting tools, and so on, kind of placed me in the right place to meet someone who, within a short conversation, we both realized that, there's a pretty good match between what I like and what I'm good at, and a position that they have, an opportunity that they have open. So the networking element is useful, and especially so even early on in your uni journey, because not many students will be doing this in their spare time. So it's yet another way to get ahead and meet more people. If I were to broaden this a little bit and start talking about more general things, I think you asked specifically about international students, so I'll touch on this as well. I think that for international students, without going into kind of a lot of minutiae, it is more difficult, right? Because at the end of the day, companies have got to justify hiring an international student over a local student, because there are hurdles to hiring an international student over a local British student. So essentially, you have got to try as much as possible to make yourself stand out even more, okay? So all of the various things I've spoken about. So you have networking opportunities, you have placements and internships, you have support from the career service, and then you have practicing your own expression and talking about your projects and your experience. Like, if you combine these things, you're already quite far above most students, because most students will not do all of these things. And then basically trying as much as possible to put yourself in along a path where when opportunities arise, they will catch you prepared. Because you will have to put in kind of a bit of extra work compared to a British student, because, like I said, companies have got to justify why they want to hire you instead of someone else. and you want that answer to be obvious,
Yeah.
right? Because I am extremely good at XYZ and they can't easily find students who are good at XYZ, or because we found you extremely interesting and at this event, or because this side project that you worked on is fascinating, or because, you know, we know you and you have done an internship and a placement with us and it feels natural to continue the relationship. There are all these ways you can make yourself cut above the rest, and you have to work, you have to go that extra mile to make the decision easy on the employers, so that they're not finding themselves having to justify it feels obvious to them.
Yeah, that is quite, even with like the visa changes, like the increase in costs, it could be difficult for employers as well.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. So from the employer side, it is difficult. It's don't quote me on this, but I think it's more expensive than ever to hire an international worker, and so it doesn't mean the opportunities are not there.
Yeah.
They absolutely are, but you have to work to position yourself well to receive them and to be chosen for those opportunities. So it goes both ways. I think the best advice I can give you is simply that you have to work to be better than everybody else who applied.
Yeah.
Now, this feels like an impossible bar, but it's actually not, because most students don't take advantage of all the things I just talked about.
Yeah.
So it's possible, and I've seen it happen, but you have to be intentional, and conscious about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's been great. Do you have, apart from all the great insights you've provided, do you have any like final takeaway for students in general wanting to break into tech, or just like into this kind of career field?
Well, if I had to condense all of that into one kind of final takeaway, it's that practice a lot, especially outside of school, and learn to talk about it and explain what you do well. These are the two most important things that will come off very clearly when you're searching for a career.
Yeah.
And then watch the rest of the podcast that we just had.
Cool. Thank you so much for coming onto this.
I
hope the students who watch this find this insightful, and they'll tell a friend and share.
Okay.
And that's a wrap, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you found this episode interesting and you would love to know more about our guest's journey, go onto his website and connect with him directly at martinnyaga.com. And if you also enjoyed the episode, please don't forget to share, subscribe, and follow at Career Diaries, connecting students with employers on Spotify and on YouTube. And if you loved it enough, please share it with a friend who may need a little bit of career inspiration. Thank you guys once again, and until next time, keep learning, keep growing, keep exploring new career possibilities, and stay tuned for more career insights right here on Career Diaries.